We also had to listen to our customers. And I've spent a lot of time with customers, and so has, of course, my colleague Bill McDermott. And we are in many, many one-on-one meetings with customers to try and understand what is the perception of SAP today. Sometimes there's a gap between the reality and the perception because we didn't do a good enough job in explaining what's already there. And sometimes we simply haven't solved the issues in the right way. Now, there is a lot of talk about speed of innovation and these fancy new apps on mobile devices, but it's very interesting that when we get to these conversations and the truth hits, quality actually matters more than anything else. Because we're not making toys, ladies and gentlemen. We're making business applications that have secure information necessary, and when that moves on to the device, it still needs to be secure and scalable and consistent and relevant and right. And if a toy on an iPhone doesn't work, it's okay, you just download another one. But that's not the way with business software. So quality actually does matter a lot. It's about stability as well. So on one side, there's this, I need more from you, SAP. Give me more innovation, but don't touch my software. And that's a pretty complicated balance to find, And so we are finding ways and actually challenging our developers to say, how can we bring disruptive technologies, new innovation, without disrupting the customer? So that you can keep what you have, in particular the part that really run your back end, that really run your business, not changing all the time. You don't change the way you do accounting too often, only when there is some new accounting rule coming up. But you might want to change the way it looks in the front end on this new Android device. And so how can we do both at the same time? It's much more difficult, but obviously more valuable if we can do that. And it comes back to reduction of TCO, which in this world of innovation and rapid stuff, I still believe that the only way that you can afford this new world is by constantly reducing the costs of running what you already have. And too big a portion of the costs or the IT costs in a company is just keeping the lights on. And if we can reduce that together with you, our customers, there might be opportunity for us as well to sell more software and delight more users. But you need first to free up the budget. So the TCO commitment is a very important one. This innovation about disruption I talked about, it's easy to be a startup because you don't have an installed base. You just go and innovate. And you take the next version. It's okay that it's disruptive because it's only 20 customers. We have by now 105,000 customers. So we have to take care how we deliver innovation without causing disruption to our customers. So that's very important. Usability is obviously an important case. If I look at how my kids are consuming software, if it's not desirable immediately, they throw it away. Can you imagine what happens to your IT landscapes when these people come into business? I don't know how you want to keep your IT strategy going. So we better make our software delightful as well. I took my management team to EA Games. You know the guys who make the EA Games? It's in the sports. You know that one? And they do the FIFA 11. I'm not a good player, but my son is really good. And they have one rule. It's very interesting. They take these young kids in, and they give them pizza and Coke. And then they test the new games. And then they have this peep room, peep show. They sit and watch, and they have one rule. If they don't see visible joy in 7 minutes, the game will be a flop. So I told that to our developers. Visible joy in 7 minutes. We're still working on that. So that obviously does matter a lot, and we are doing a lot. Our dilemma, again, is that we have 250,000 screens in the Business Suite alone. And so just to redo all of those would be massively disruptive. So we have to find other ways to reach these new users and make opportunities and changes happen without disruption. And we are committed to do that. And finally, maybe most importantly, and we'll talk about the roadmaps, this notion of predictability. How can I, as a customer, make a roadmap if I don't know what's coming? And I normally say that there are only two answers that are allowed. Yes, we'll do it, or no, we'll not do it. But maybe is a bad answer, because maybe means you can't plan anything. You still hope. And we have taken that step as well, and I'll talk about the roadmaps, why it's so important that we become that reliable partner to our customers, so that you can plan your roadmap and consume the functionality or technology at the right moment in time, because you know it will come at a certain time. So those are the inputs we took, and then we tried to articulate our strategy. It's not that complicated, actually. I don't know if we need the Pamela Anderson to remember it. We are by far the market leader in on-premise. A lot of consolidation has happened in the industry. We all know that. Our biggest competitor has been buying companies, spending more than 50 billion, and we are still number one by a big margin in the on-premise world. We will continue to be very focused on that. We actually believe that because we are so good in on-premise, we have an opportunity to expand beyond. But we need to do it in ways where it is consistent with the on-premise world. There's a lot of talk about cloud computing, and it's getting more and more cloudy the longer we talk about it. But this notion about consuming software as a service over the internet is an appealing idea. It does make sense. But it only makes sense probably for those processes that are not core and differentiating to your business. So it's actually a hybrid approach that you need. Would you share your core process and your core data with someone else? You probably wouldn't. Data never. Process, yes, if it's non-differentiating. Then it's about getting it cheap. And cheap means I share the infrastructure, I share the software, and I share most of the configuration with someone else. And now I can consume it very fast. And now I get benefits of costs. But maybe one day this non-differentiating process, take a claims management in insurance, which is outsourced by many insurance companies today. It's a very massive-oriented, volume-oriented claims management. Maybe that becomes your reason for differentiation one day. Maybe you figure out that the way you handle a customer when he is mostly in despair and the car was stolen or the house was flooded, that's how you get loyal customers, and suddenly claims management becomes your competitive advantage. At that moment in time, you need to move it from this on-demand where you share the process with everyone else into on-premise, where you control exactly how that process is done, because it makes a very big difference to how you're seen with your customers. That's why we in SAP believe in a hybrid approach. Hybrid means that there are functionalities that can be consumed on-premise, and there are sometimes similar functionalities that can be consumed on demand. And most importantly, that these things fit together. So that if you do lead management in on-demand, because it's a good way of becoming more productive with your salespeople, then hopefully that lead one day becomes a real opportunity. And if you're really good at it, it becomes an order. And now that's where most sales on-demand solutions stop. That's where you need the integration to the on-premise world, so that you can price the order, you can deliver the order, you can send the invoice, you can get the money, and you can have a relationship end-to-end with your customer. That's the way we think about the hybrid on-demand and on-premise. And on-device is about making all of this available on these devices. Our CTO, Vishal Sikka, had this nice notion. He said there's 250,000 screens just dying to come out into these new devices where there's such a nice experience around them. And that's the opportunity we have. The mobile device not only allows us to reach much more people, much more users that want to consume the information so they can do a better job, it is also an opportunity to redo the front end of SAP with a device where you really have to be good if you make it look bad. The device itself is almost so beautiful, and the frame around it, that it's hard to make it ugly. Not bad. Now, finally, we do believe in orchestration. What does that mean? Well, in this world, there will be stuff you consume on-premise, where you manage the application, you manage the setup, and you manage your process. There will be other parts you consume on demand, because that's relevant for that part of the process. You still have it integrated. And finally, there will be software on these devices. Now, how do you manage that over time? How do you make sure that the data is consistent between all these different applications managed by different people? How do you make sure that the process runs end-to-end in a consistent way, and you can still measure your efficiency end-to-end from a process point of view? And how do you make sure that you can lifecycle manage all these different applications so that you get the lowest possible TCO, and with that free up money to invest in innovation for your company? That's why we're committed to orchestration. I'll talk about the orchestration layer as a very important layer. Many people still just talk about middleware. Middleware means I'll translate any language you have to Esperanto and back again. We actually believe that pieces of software need to speak the same language to the extent they can and be open to any language. But there's no reason to translate between things that shouldn't be translating in the first place. So that is basically our strategy. It's 4 very important pillars. It's about extending our leadership in on-premise. It's about entering the on-demand market because we have been late to this market, and we've struggled to figure out a more modern way to enter this on-demand market than just talking about a cloud. We have, with the Sybase acquisition, an opportunity to make our software available for any people on any device anywhere in the world. And finally, with orchestration, we stand up and take responsibility that these pieces fit together, non-SAP as well as SAP. Let me dwell a little bit on each one of these 4 points so you get a feel for where we are in terms of executing on this 4-pillared strategy. And let's start in the root of where we come from in the on-premise world. The on-premise world, we have worked hard the last couple of years to try and get the suite components closer together. That is the ERP closer together with the CRM, the SRM, the SCM, and the PLM. Why is this so important? Because we fundamentally believe that business don't think ERP and SRM and CRM and SCM. They think lead to cash. And if you think lead to cash, something starts in an analytical application that goes into CRM, it goes into supply chain management, it might go into PLM, and then it goes into ERP. And that end-to-end chain has to work. And we felt that we have a better chance than anyone else in the industry to make sure this end-to-end process from a data and a process point of view is consistent. Because we didn't acquire all the pieces in our suite. They were built with a relatively similar data model in mind, with a significantly better consistency than any other collection of pieces in the market today. So with that in mind, we decided to bring these pieces together. And we are trying to do 2 things in this world. On one side, help you execute your transactional business in a more efficient way every year. And help you link the transactional world with the analytical world. The strategy to execution loop needs to be closed. We actually believe that this divide between analytics and transactional world will have to be smaller and eventually come together. And that is necessary because we live in a world where your strategy is no longer a 5-year strategy. It's a 5-week strategy, and then you sense and respond what's going on, and you adjust your execution accordingly. We see that happening in many industries, starting with the consumer industries, but going into other industries as well, where the desire to understand the behavior on the customer's customer is very high, and your need to drive your supply chain based on demand and not on efficiency only is key. So that's why we're bringing the business objects world much closer to the business suite. And you will see a next generation of our business objects tool sets coming out very soon. It's in the final making right now. It will come out this year. And this will be the version where we have unified the data collection, the data definition, so it links really well into the business suite and non-SAP parts. And we have unified all the tools for the end users. So depending on what you need, whether it's more PowerPoint type or an Excel type or a more dashboard type of analytics, you have a choice of menu, a choice of tools, but they're all consistent in the way they work with the end user.